Hello, and welcome. Again, I want to thank you for following me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., all those platforms. It's amazing all these different avenues that there are to be able to communicate with people and share a message that you have with people. I feel like the message I have to share is a very powerful message. I've been sharing the same message with people just about my entire life, ever since I was 5 years old. When I was 5, I was giving people advice. I know some people may find it hard to believe, but I knew who I was at 5. That doesn't mean that I didn't have problems. I didn't struggle. I struggled a lot, to be honest with you, because I knew who I was, and the world was telling me that I wasn't who I said I was. And there were times when I lost sight of who I was because I got distracted by the world, like so many of us oftentimes do. But I found myself getting back on track. And when I got back on track, the pain, emotional pain, depression, mental illness that I found myself experiencing as a result of being off track dissipated, right? And sort of, I see so many people struggling today. And I know that the cause of their pain, because anybody who's struggling with mental illness or struggling with depression, struggling with anxiety, struggling with all the things that come along with doubting yourself, the key component to mental illness or the mental health, I would say, is having a correct view of yourself, a correct vision of yourself. When you don't see yourself correctly, I would define it. I'm not talking about any kind of disorders and chemicals in your brain or any kind of predisposition. I'm talking about just straight off, when you don't have a correct view of yourself, you will start experiencing mental illness. And to me, mental illness, from my experience, is just you being against yourself. When you are operating against yourself, when you are struggling with yourself, when you are wrestling with yourself, when you don't believe in yourself, when you don't trust yourself, all of those are indicators of mental health issues. Now, of course, as I said to you before, we have struggled with this whole idea of being honest about the fact that we are not 100% on our own side, which is mental health. Mental health is being 100% on your side, meaning you are not finding fault in you. You're not criticizing you. You're not critiquing you all the time. You're not nitpicking at everything about yourself. Your mind is working for you. Now, most of us, we live our entire lives with our mind not working for us. And we think that the way our mind works is just how it is, not realizing that, to be honest with you, our mind is supposed to be our greatest friend. Our mind should be our soulmate, our first soulmate. Now, through life, we will develop other soulmates, but our mind should be our first. But the problem is, when we are born, we immediately start receiving programming, because from the age of 0 to 2, we're in what they call the delta state. And the delta state, brain state, is us being sort of awake and asleep almost at the same time. And then from 2 to 7, we go into the theta phase, which is the hypnotic phase state of brain frequency, where we are highly observant of everything going on. And this is when most of the programs, the foundational programs, are downloaded into our subconscious mind. In other words, this is when the world tells us who they think we should be. And then that stuff is packed on top of your natural intelligence, on top of who you really are. And then most of us, we live most of our lives thinking that there's something wrong with us because the life that we're living is not doing it for us. I remember for myself, I woke up to this when I was in college, playing college football. I mean, I played college football for the most part because, well, not just college football from Little League on up was because of my relationship with my dad. That was the only way we had consistent contact with our father. Even though he lived across town, we lived with my grandmother. That was our way of interacting. And so I wanted to make him happy. So in some cases, I had no choice. I learned a lot. Don't get me wrong. I learned a lot from the path. I learned not to quit. I learned to go after what I wanted. I learned leadership. All those things came along. So I'm not saying there was something wrong with it. What I'm saying is it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. Regardless if it wasn't anything wrong with it or not, it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. But it was a way out of the ghetto, as they say. It's a way out of the ghetto. And I'm thankful that my dad put me on that path to get out of the ghetto. But I did it. I was doing it because I wanted to please my dad. So, because he had so much excitement about the idea of playing football, because he always envisioned himself being a star on the football field, but it never panned out for him. So he was living vicariously through me. But by the time I got to become a junior in college, I realized that this is not doing anything for me. This is really not doing. But what was doing something for me was, the idea of standing up for social justice and the idea of spiritual transformation. Those things that always interest me as a child. But so many things were put on top of that because I did not see my path in the usual way everybody else saw their path. My path was different, and so I stood out as different, which brought a lot of unwanted attention at times. And at times I found myself having to prove myself, so to speak, or having to defend myself. Sometimes I felt like I was by myself, like I was all alone, because no one understood the way I thought. I didn't think like the average person thought. My thinking was geared toward seeing the divinity in us. I saw divinity in each one of us. I saw divinity in myself. However, the programs that were downloaded into my subconscious mind as a child would oftentimes conflict with how I truly saw myself and how I truly saw other people. So it would take some years to be able to reprogram myself, to take my mind back from this world and to get my mind to work for me. I would say this to you. If there is a job that you need to be on, it is the job of getting your mind to work for you. And here is why. Because your mind is the key manifesting machine on this 3D level. That if you want to have the things that you desire in your life, you gotta get your mind to work for you. It should be your servant and no one else's. You are not your mind. Let's get that straight. Because a lot of people believe that they are their mind. Like they also believe that what they think they are. No, you are not what you think you are. You are the person doing the thinking. So if you were who you thought you were, you couldn't do the thinking at all. You couldn't think anything else. You have the power to think beyond what you're even thinking now. If you sat down for a second, or even if you got to a point to where you start really depending and trusting yourself, you would see that you could think beyond your problems. You can think beyond your problems. We have that ability to think beyond our problems. And if we can't think beyond our problems, we can even use our imagination and leapfrog beyond it. But we have to trust ourselves. Napoleon Hill, author of the book Think and Grow Rich, talked about the idea of taking possession of your mind and then directing it to an end of your own choosing. We all have the same responsibility. What he was saying to us is that we have to take back our mind from this world, train it to think the way we want it to think, train it to go in the direction that we want it to go. At the Soul Focus Group, we say, train your mind how to think like your soul thinks, because your soul is your first mind. And the mind that you are trying to develop to get back to working with you is your second mind. And when your second mind harmonizes with your first mind or takes orders from your first mind, it becomes one mind. And when you become one mind again, you are an unstoppable force. Nothing can resist you, not even yourself. So when you are in harmony with yourself, your whole entire life will change for the better. The power that you already possess, you will start to feel it and know that you are capable of creating whatever outcome you want for yourself, and you can start now. Get your mind to work for you. I'm M, CEO of the Soul Focus Group, Super Coach. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.